Now, these are the survey questions and examples that you can use. So first, let's start with the Dyko Thomas question. What does it mean when you are given only two choices? Yes or no, true, false, good, bad, good. Like how do you feel? Sometimes you're asked whether you're feeling good or you're feeling bad. So there is no in between, you know. So dichotomous when you're given two choices, only two choices, and you have to choose one. So this is a type of question when you are trying to actually ask. For example, we were talking about. I took an example yesterday where we were talking about uh, the working women part. So the first question of your questionnaire should be like whether you are working or not, right? So that means yes or no, either you are working or you're not working. I hope you understand this question. So this is one example. I hope the slides are changing. Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And are the slides
Ma'am, we
changing?
are at
Oh,
dichotomous questions.
cool, cool, cool. I was just something with just the screen.
Ma'am, we are at dichotomous questions.
Yes, yes, exactly. Okay, thanks. So it's just question where you're given two choices. Then is a multiple choice survey question when the example is right, in front of you. So here you give a multiple choice with your question, and a person can choose either one. So, for example, how did you hear about our website? This is a very common question. You might have came across with it a lot of times. So television, newspapers, radio, magazine. So this is a very common question, right? So this is a multiple choice. So you know what, whenever you are doing some survey or whenever you are collecting the data, so these sort of questions you can put in into your whatever questionnaire you are preparing. Then is rank order scaling. Here, what is it? You put it in a rank based order. Like highest is one, and maybe the lowest is four. So, for example, is considering the fitness tracker you currently have, which of the following features do you like the most? So, what you have done here is you have given ranking to the numbers. Like one is the best, highest ranking, and lowest means four, like the least ranking. You do not like it, right? So that is the ranks order scaling, where a person chooses the rank, the number there, right? For example, for measuring sleep, a person only is just not satisfied, so he can give four, right? For active minutes, if the person is satisfied, then they can give two. So I can give you one example. I prepared a questionnaire wherein I asked some people, how do you like? What do you think? Do you think on a scale of 1 to 10 that India is doing good in investing renewable energy? Like it's just an example. So one means you think that Indian government is doing a lot, and 10 means you're not satisfied, right? For example, road infrastructure, female laws. You're asking somebody on a scale of 1 to 10. You have to choose whether a person, what does he think. I hope it's clear, right?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. Then comes the rating scale. It's very so basically, why maybe you're thinking in your head why we have to put in so many types of question, and why cannot we just ask? Because you have to convince a person to fill in your questionnaire and to answer your questions. If you will make it boring, trust me, nobody would be interested in answering your questions, except for some of your friends who are very close to you. Otherwise, you have to make your questionnaire interesting so that the person who is reading your person who is answering the questions also feel interested, also feels connected to your research. That is why. And also it should be easier, right? It should not be like answer in 200 words. So a person will not be having a time to write the whole paragraph for you. Okay, that is how where these questions come to the rescue. So rating scale is how satisfied are you with the following. So for example, website, a person is not very satisfied, or a person is satisfied. So you can, so a person can choose out of very dissatisfied, not satisfied, neutral. So there are a lot of options here. Okay, that is how you can prepare your questions. This is again a type of a similar scale sort of a question. Then is a staple scale. Here, it's basically how well do you think the word innovative, for example, aptly describes our company. So a person can also rate into negative, right? So if you think that it's not innovative, it's boring. For example, you went to a restaurant and on the same theme there are like 10 other restaurants in your city and they're asking you how do you like it. So obviously you'll be like, this is some other one, just one addition to it, nothing innovative has been done. So you can do -4 maybe, because there is nothing innovative, it's just a copy. So that is how. This is constant come survey questions. Have you ever came across this app? There are a lot of apps these days. One that I regularly use is Splitwise, and even on Google Pay, I think you have these options where you can allocate points on your income, savings, and you can use it very. It's very nice, and so basically how much you are spending. For example, total is 100 points, and now like even on social media, even there is a phone screen time tracker, something like that, where that app tells you on which app you're spending how much time. For example, if you're spending like 3 hours with your phone, so it tells you that 1 hour you have spent using Instagram, half an hour YouTube. Any one of you have came across it, like, just by chance?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thankfully. Yes, it's very common. The screen time part, I think most of you. I think it's inbuilt also in the phone.
Yes, ma'am. It is inbuilt also that timing of Instagram and the other apps.
Yes, absolutely. So it is that, where there is a total number of hours or points, and then it gets divided into different parts. Now, demographic survey questions. This is very important in age-related studies. For example, you only want adults to be a part of your study. So you can ask whether they are above 18 or below 18. So if the question says below 18, so automatically their inputs gets rejected. Their inputs will not be incorporated. Right? That is where these demographic survey questions come. A demographic, I hope you understand. We talk about demographic dividend a lot, right? That India's demographic dividend is so good. That yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now comes the matrix table where, please, for example, you can choose. It's like a matrix, where you can choose among on both the sides. Matrix means on both x-axis and y-axis you have the choices, and now you have to choose. For example, you can see on the left-hand side there are four options: customer service, delivery, shopping experience, quality, and on the above there you have to rate them. Like customer service, like it's rated good here, right? So that is how it is a matrix. Okay. uh, it's very easy. I'm just telling you because so that you at least know what type of questions you can add. Now this is side by side matrix. It's the same, it's just a better version of the earlier one. Now, this is interesting because I've seen a lot of researchers, adding visual analogs these days into their study. So they use this. Have you seen this earlier?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So if you are satisfied, so there is a happy face. So that basically all this is done to, you know, make people answer your questions, so that you basically you're just convincing people, you know, that please answer the question so that you get your data. right? That is why all this is done. Image chooser, it's the better version again. uh, net promoter score. Net promoter score is where there is a, you basically choose that 0 is very unlikely, 10 is very likely. So on a scale of 1 to 10 you have to choose. That is what I was telling you earlier. So on a scale of 1 to 10 you choose whether you like the services or you do not like the services, or whatever your question is. Now open-ended survey question. This is something which where you want a detailed answer, right? So do you have any comments or suggestions? So this is open-ended because in all the earlier questions you were giving a choice that the person has to choose. Here the person who is filling your questionnaire has the flexibility, to add their own inputs, what exactly they think, to add their comments, to add the suggestions. Yes, I hope it's clear. These were all close ended questions, because here you're not giving the person any flexibility, to answer the questions in the way they want. You were giving them the choices. That is why they're called the close ended questions. This is open ended because the person has the flexibility to write the answers, to give their inputs, their comments more in a more better manner, you can say. Does it make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I hope that's clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. Now, these are some very simple tips for good survey questions. First is be neutral. I mean, you should be neutral about your questions. You should not be. I mean, you cannot ask. You should you're not supposed to give. Uh, for example, it's a dichotomous question, and you are giving options like poor and very poor only. Maybe the person is happy or they feel that it's good. So that is, you have to be neutral, right? Keep it simple. It should be simple. Again, that only when it would be simple, then only people would be interested, and they'd be happy to fill it. Don't ask just because. So it is a very so basically I'm in a university, and what happens is, all of the people who are part of the study, what they do is they send across their questions and they're like, please fill it, otherwise, and if you don't fill it for a week, they'll just stop talking to you. I mean, that's just weird, and you have to fill it even when you don't want to. One example is, there was this one colleague of mine who's working on stock market. I'm not even an investor in stock market. I do not know anything about stock market, but still she forced me like anything to fill that, her questionnaire. And she even told me that, this you have to fill, you have to choose these options. So I don't know what type of data collection it is. I hope so, just be careful to whom you're asking, whether they know anything about it or not, right? Skip hypothetical questions. Like, I hope hypothetical question you understand. Like, you're not supposed to ask in a that when will the world end, do you think the world will end, and you're giving options like yes or no, right? This is a hypothetical question. Or find out how, and ask one question at a time, and it would be easy. If you are, ask one question at a time is very important when you're taking interview. Some people ask, in one question they combine like 2 3 questions. So I don't think that is a very good technique. Is it clear? Any doubts in this? Then we'll move to the next topic.
Yes, ma'am.
If anyone wants to ask anything, please, you are free to. So I have to stop presenting. Yes. Please let me know if you want to ask anything. I'll be okay. Just one thing. How many of you feel that in your research you'll be required to make such a questionnaire? Any sort of
Ma'am,
questionnaire, not.
me.
Okay, what is your research question, Krishna?
Ma'am, the topic I've chosen is legalities of editing with respect to UDHR.
Yes, I remember.
So basically, gene editing, first of all, we have to start with whether people know about it. And people know about the CRISPR gene editing thing and
Okay.
what they think about it. So I think it would be a very
Yes. So,
intense.
first question you can ask is whether you know about this thing, yes or no. We can make questions like that. Okay. Anyone else apart from Krishna who feels that they would be required to make a questionnaire? No? None of your research requires a questionnaire. Okay, so how are you planning to collect your data, if I may ask? Other techniques? Uh, if I may ask Riddhi, I can see her on the screen, her name on the screen.
Yeah, ma'am. We can collect data from internet via some Google, via Google. We can refer certain books. Either we can go for a questionnaire kind of thing which you are explaining right now.
Yes,
We can do survey. Yes, survey in the way. Like yesterday, you told about sampling survey and all other surveys. So basically, in this way, we can carry out the whole of the research.
yes. Okay. Um, cool. Okay, so fine. We'll be talking about exactly the next part consists where you're required to make a questionnaire, you're required to do a survey, and when you're not required. So that is what we'll be talking about in the other part. Yes, somebody has raised hand, please. Yes, Pushpinder, I can see the name now.
Ma'am, you can hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Ma'am, so how important is it to have survey or go through all of this process to collect primary data? Does it make your study more reliable, more credible, or like, for instance, let's say I'm conducting research on urban planning in India. I can either go through secondary sources and do armchair research and come up with a good paper, which has scholars like Montek Singh Ahluwalia reports, government reports, everything. So that paper is also good, but then I can have survey as well in there and like ask the people, okay, what do you think? Mumbai is gonna like submerge very soon in 50 years. Do we need other cities and everything? What's your perspective on this? Should we have cities like Chandigarh, which are far better planned and everything? So basically, I'm trying to ask you is how better is it to conduct primary research using these tools that we've been discussing about for a few days now?
Okay. It's a very important question. That is what, if you have this doubt, that means you're on the right track because, it is very important to understand what exactly you need in your research. It depends on your research question, on your research topic totally. If you're talking about smart cities and all, I don't think common people know, even if you'll prepare a questionnaire, I don't think common people have the capability and the knowledge per se to, answer the questions of the level that you want to ask. If you're talking about climate change, there are no experts in their field. This is a very genuine question. So basically, you have to understand what exactly your research requires. If you have the data, so even in my research, the research that I'm doing, I won't be taking these type of I won't be preparing any questionnaire. I won't be preparing any survey. I will be preparing a questionnaire, but not a survey. That depends. So the next part, technically, that we'll be discussing in another 1 hour probably, that will, I hope that will clear your doubts of whether you should go for a survey, or whether you should make a questionnaire, or you should follow what type of methodology, right? So we'll be talking about the methodology in another 1 hour. I hope that will clear your doubt, but I'm happy that you have this doubt. Trust me, this is a very good start, right? Okay, one more comment with respect to, I think your research question only requires expert opinions, expert comments, or and you can totally rely on secondary data. Even when you're relying on secondary data, it does not mean that your research is inferior to the people who are collecting primary data. It just depends on your analysis part as well, you know. So remember, we were talking about inferential statistics yesterday, if you remember. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, little not clear.
Okay, I'll just switch off the camera. Is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Remember, we were talking about inferential statistics yesterday. So that I just told you in that, what happens is there is just one data. uh, for example, there is one set of data, there is one government report on which multiple researchers research on the same topic, and they find loopholes, they tell what, they come up with new policy papers and all. So that also you can do. Okay. I hope that answers the question. Yes, Pushpendra, you're free to speak.
So, ma'am, till now I have done this primary research or questionnaires and everything when I was engaged in other subjects. For instance, when I was doing a research or sociology project for a sociology project, at that time I did some of this. But so far I have not done primary research for any of my law papers because mainly a normal individual can't comment on that or doesn't have the expertise to comment on that. So they are very, you can say, scholarly papers. So look, till now, it's my whenever I'm gonna start writing papers, it's my assumption that I'll rely on secondary sources only. So could you change that perspective a bit?
No, that's totally fine. Even in international affairs, you see, I belong to a field where, even I haven't ever conducted primary, I haven't ever taken any primary data. So that's totally fine. That totally depends on your research. I mean, whatever you're talking about makes total sense to me because I'm also doing such type of a research, and that doesn't make your research inferior at all. It is just a different method. So there are, so when I'll be talking about today's session, we'll be starting with. So I hope that will make your doubt very much clear because we'll be talking about all these similar things.
Sure, ma'am.
Yes. So absolutely, Pushpinga, you're on the right track, and so your research requires only expert comments. And if you have secondary data, you do not need to collect primary data. It's not a, it's not a compulsion, right? So primary data is generally collected when, so for example, people working in behavioral sciences, right? They have to collect primary data. It becomes more of a compulsion because they, for example, you want to study people's behavior after divorce per se, after marriage. So what they do is they try to take first hand experience of people. So that is when primary data becomes more important. Otherwise, it's totally fine if you have secondary data and even expert comments and opinions. Yes, Pushpindu, please.
So, ma'am, you recently conducted a study about India's investment in Papua New Guinea, right?
Yes, yes.
So, in that paper, what were your major sources for that information? Because this is something only a geopolitical enthusiast or someone with a deep knowledge of it can like answer. So how did you go about it?
So basically, there is one expert that I was connected with. I have also given him gratitude comment in my article. That was Mr. Mahadevan, who has actually visited PNG multiple times, and he has ground experience there. He has worked there. He know. So I have never been to PNG, right? So you can understand that I have totally relied on secondary data like government reports, like government websites, whatever government has invested in, and all the UN reports I have, and even the news articles I have referred to, right? So that was all my research. So I have never been, so I totally relied on secondary data, and whether my secondary data is relevant or not, for that I took expert opinion. So there were multiple changes that this article went across. So he told me that, this is written, but this is not true. On ground, this is not true. So that is how you can even connect with the, an expert into that field, into that topic. So that also helps.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Got to know a lot.
Okay, I hope just stay connected. Whatever we'll be discussing now will I think make more sense now. So I'm starting with the next part. Just let me know if the screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Oh, thank you. So basically, what is research? Again, you have to ask this question, multiple times to you. It is basically an effort to gain new knowledge, and this, journey to gain new knowledge should be systemized, and this is where research methodology came into picture. See, whatever I'm telling you, whatever I'm sharing with you in all these sessions, it's basically to make your research process easy, you know so that is what we'll be doing. I'll be talking about more of the system part, and new knowledge you can only gather by using that system. Okay, so critical thinking is very important in all this. So this is I just found this interesting, that is why I've put it in the presentation. So it's basically to improve the decision making. It enhances the problem solving ability when you're curious, when you're thinking in a critical manner. It basically refine your research skills. It polishes your creativity and stimulates curiosity, which is very, very important for a researcher. Okay. So objectives of research. So why exactly you want to do the research? The main aim of the research is to find out the truth which is hidden and which has not yet been discovered. So why? So we were just talking about. So I wrote this article because I felt that PNG is such an important country. It has so many resources, and why India is not investing in it? When China, countries like China, Australia, so fine, Australia is close to it, but why countries like China and other countries are investing, and why is India not investing much? And where can India invest? So that was my main aim of writing that article, of that research, right? So main aim is to find out something new, which you also think has not been done yet. Okay, there is a difference. Sometimes what happens is other people have also worked. So there are many people who have worked on India PNG relations, right? But I felt that there was something missing, and maybe I can add more to it. Okay. Next is to gain familiarity with the phenomena or to achieve new insights. So it is not always that you have to find out something new. Sometimes it is also about self learning. Sometimes it is also, about gaining familiarity with the process. And you won't believe that there are also papers of literature review. People read a lot of literature, and what they do is they write paper about it. Okay, this is what has been done till now. and this can be done more. Okay, that also people write paper about. It is not that always all the papers, all the articles will have something new. Sometimes even do you read newspaper every day, I hope? Okay, sometimes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, have you come across that there are a lot of people, even a lot of journalists, a lot of good research, a lot of good writers, editors also write in the newspapers about some phenomena, explaining some phenomena, just to common people. They basically what they do is they read something and translate it into a simple manner so that people can understand it.
Yeah, ma'am. A few days back, I read about some space exploration topic, and the person who had written it had explained it pretty well. So, from for someone who's not from astronomics background, so it was very clear to me.
That is also a type of research. Okay, to portray accurately the characteristics of a particular individual situation of or a group, this is also a type of research. This is descriptive research. Like that, when you describe something, the process behind something, that is what we were just talking about, right? Then is diagnostic research is one of the research design types that aims to examine a cause of a certain situation. I can give you, this is just one. I is some any of you based in Delhi? No one
Ma'am,
is from Delhi.
you wanna talk about the floods?
Yes, I was just talking about it. So, what was the cause of the flood? There's so many analysis that are coming up now. Even my dad, so he is basically an engineer, and he has worked in irrigation department for like some 35 odd years. And he was telling me today, he has done his own analysis and he has his own data set. He has collected it, and he was telling me that this is the reason for the flood. So that is also a research, right? Like people were trying to find out why, from where COVID is emerging, right? That is also diagnostic research, trying to trying to find out the cause of a certain situation or a phenomena. Is that clear?
Yeah, ma'am. It became particularly prevalent at the time of COVID.
Yes, even right now, people are trying to find out why did so one interesting fact is he was telling me that this time only this much cubic lakh cubic water was released from that dam. And earlier, even 10 lakh cubic of water has came into Delhi, but then no flood came, and this time there was this flood. So he was telling me the reasons. Reason number one, two, three. I was like, wow, this is a diagnostic research, right? So even COVID, some people were telling that it is from a Chinese lab. Some people were telling that it's from a Chinese, some wet market they have. So this is also a research. It's not like you have to always trying to, you'll just come across with the big bang theory and all that. So this is also research. I hope it makes sense now.
Yes, ma'am.
This is very important because we start doing research, we even publish articles, we even become good researchers, but still objectives of research is something that everybody should know. Okay. um any doubts in this?
Ma'am, what is problem inception?
Okay, problem inception means, first of all, you have to identify that there is a problem. It should be a problem for you.
Hmm.
Yes, then only you can work on it, right?
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yes, first of all, the problem should exist. Secondly, you diagnose that problem. Okay, this is the problem. And thirdly, you're trying to find out the solution.
Huh, ma'am.
First is you identify the problem. Secondly, you diagnose why there is a problem, what are the reasons for the problem, and thirdly, you try to find out the solutions for it.
Huh.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Got it.
Okay. Next. So a research design, when you start researching, it should have these following things. First of all, a purpose statement, what exactly you want to do. Like somebody told me, you have all almost shared your research topics with me, so that is your purpose statement, what you want to do. The technique, we'll be talking about the technique and methodology. Objectives also, you should know what exactly you want to know. That is objectives. Then is settings, timeline, measurement, and analysis method. So a lot of things will come at a later stage in your research. But we'll be talking about majorly the methodology part today. And techniques we have already discussed in the previous session. So a research design, an impactful research should have a minimum bias in the data that we discussed yesterday. I hope you understand why it is very important to have a minimum bias. An impactful research that will increase the trust in the accuracy of collected data. Okay, so why do you think people these days do not like news channels, watching news channels? And I've seen more of our generation people, relying on analysis from YouTube videos and all that. Why do you think that is happening?
Fake news, ma'am, and what is
Ma'am,
it? The in search of romanticizing a topic, they use different headlines that basically clickbait the person into wanting to read or see a news when it hasn't been like that at all.
Yes, totally. So basically, you think, first of all, that they're biased because, they are maybe one news they are focusing more and others they're not focusing as they should. So that is, you think that there is a bias. So basically, even news reporting and all, even, they are also part of research. People need to understand that a lot of good journalists are good researchers also. So that is why, people these days do not trust news channels, because somewhere they feel that, there is a bias, there is an inaccuracy in the data that they are showing, and there is no least margin of error, there is a, large margin of error that is there. So that you should do the opposite for the impactful research. I think somebody raised hand, I'll just quickly see. Yes, Pushpender, please.
on the news channel part, you said कि they are biased. Man, the thing is, if you see most of them, you see a pattern कि भाई खरीदे खरीदे हुए लोग हैं ना, कि प्रॉपरली बीजेपी सपोर्टर्स, प्रॉपरली एंटायर बीजेपी, तो मैम, और ऐसा नहीं है कि यू से दैट ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ वन पॉडकास्ट, वन शो दैट दे हैड, देयर एंटायर पॉलिसी इज surrounded by that only. So that's why people are moving towards podcasts and other like sources.
Yeah, because they think, that is what you just said, that you think that they are biased towards government, they're biased towards a party. That is what you think, right? So you think that it is not authentic. The data, the news that they're showing, it's not authentic. That is what it is there in your head. Yes? This is what you're trying to say, no? Yes, Pushpender, I hope this is what you were trying to say. Okay, I think we've lost signal.
There's
Uh,
another thing. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yes. So that is what, an impactful research, if even if, podcast, so maybe whatever podcast you listen to, whatever YouTube channels you're following them because you think that they are authentic. They are not biased. The data that they are showing is accurate. That is what you believe, right? They have accurate data and the margin of error is less. And it is very interesting. In So I follow the Hindu almost regularly, and what they do is, there is a small section where they, tell that this was the error in yesterday's newspaper, and they accept their errors, right? that so they check, people also send their inputs to them, that this was wrong, and they even accept it, and next day in the newspaper you'll see it, that this should be corrected as this should be read as this. Has anyone of you came across it?
No, ma'am.
No.
या मैम कॉरिजेंडम करके लिखते हैं वो लोग उसको.
Yes, absolutely. Even if you have seen some YouTube videos, they correct it even in the start of video, that in the previous video this was wrong and we apologize for it. So that is a type of, so you think that there is a least margin of error because the person is accepting the error also. So that, a trust part comes into the picture. So I hope it is clear what should you follow while doing the research. Next is research design. So we have already discussed it. It's just the same. Okay. Characteristics. It should be neutral, right? It is very important that a researcher is not biased. He's neutral. And if there are one or more opinions into picture, you should incorporate all of them. Okay. I remember somebody was working on UCC, right? So what is important is he or she takes into account both the parts of the UCC, what parts of it are, should be taken into account, whether it is good, whether why it is good, if it is good, if it is bad, then why it is bad. So that also you should undertake. Reliable, you should, whatever you are saying in your article, in your research, in your paper, whatever you're writing, it should be reliable. How it becomes reliable? When you support it with the data, right? Authentic data, whether the data is collected by you. If the data is collected by you, then you should follow all the data collection methods that we discussed. And if it is a secondary data, then it should be from authentic website, report, journal, blog, whatever, right? So the data should be reliable. Third is the validity. It should be valid, right? Last is the generalization part. It some, an important aspect of research is it should be, common people should also be able to understand it, whatever you're writing, because what exactly you are doing at the end, you want people to understand your research, right? You want something to convey to the people, convey to some, right? So it should be easier to comprehend. Okay. um, so these are the research approaches. Before we started this session, we were talking about whether you should go for interview, whether you should go for survey, expert opinion. We were talking about it. So we'll be talking about all the research approaches that you can undertake for your research, for undertaking your research. First is a quantitative approach. I'll be talking about all these in details. Qualitative approach. Inferential, we have talked about a lot. Inferential means when people, when multiple people are working on same data, and then they are coming out with different inferences of the same. I can give you one example of it. So remember there was a Mars mission, sorry, moon mission to from India, Chandrayaan.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So
Yes, ma'am.
what? Yeah. So there are different scientists who are working on the same thing. So they are working on a similar thing, and what their job is to get out different inferences of. So what happens is that Chandrayaan sends picture to the scientists, right? So there is a team which analyzes those pictures. So what happens is different people analyze different things out of the same picture. That is inferential approach. Even in certain examinations, if any one of you have given FCAT and all those exams, so what happens is they show you one picture in the and you're asked to comprehend that picture. Anyone? Okay. Inferential ap- okay, inferential approach is something where multiple people are using same data set, and they come out with different inferences from it, different you can say their own meanings. They come out with their own meanings out of it, right? Next is experimental approach. Does somebody wants to say something?
Yes, ma'am. In the NCRT in political science books, cartoons and pictures were there, and there they interpret the what happens, like political theory and all that.
Yes, political theories. There are people who even theories are very good example of inferential approach. Thank you for adding it. Theories, a lot of people comprehend different theories, even religious text. Thankfully, I got this answer. It just came to my mind. Have you ever thought that religious texts are different for different people? They means different for different people.
Yes,
Yes?
ma'am.
No?
Like the Gita shloks are there. The different people interpret it differently. Uh, like the same
Yes,
shlok.
absolutely. Same shloka, and they interpret it in a different way. They make their own inferences. People who read it, and even same people reading it in a different time frame, also make different inferences out of it.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. Even you'll be interested. One of my colleague is working on the similar issue. That is how it linked me. She's working on the religious texts of religious texts of this Quran and all, and she is working on the aspect of how ISIS interprets it and why. Okay, so she's working on this aspect, and it's very interesting for me. Yes, I think somebody has raised hand. Please you're free to speak. Okay, fine. Should I check? Okay, nobody raised hand. It just what a noise. Okay. Next is experimental approach. In this, we conduct experiment. I mean, but I don't think this is very much relevant for arts and humanities. So you can skip it. Simulation is also, I don't think, is relevant for us. So majorly, I'll be talking about quantitative and qualitative approach. And Frenchel, I hope you understand. So starting with the qualitative research method, it is more relevant for people who are working on expert, like it is very important for people whose research and not data collection based, right? So qualitative research means that you are looking for quality in your research, the quality part in your research, qualitative part. Right. So, for example, we were talking about smart cities, right? So that means, so basically, that is a qualitative research because it requires expertise. You know, you do not need quantity in it. You do not need to ask a lot of people about what they think about smart cities, about the planning, because they don't know about it, right? You cannot ask a lot of people about what they think about nuclear bomb. Maybe a lot of people don't even know how nuclear bomb is made, what exactly is required for it, and how it can be dangerous. Maybe people have awareness about nuclear bombs, but do you think that people have awareness about chemical weapons? Or do you think that people know whether a government should invest in renewables or not? So these are some qualitative aspects of research. So for these type of research questions, there is a qualitative research method. And for qualitative research method, you can follow these techniques which are written. First is one-on-one interview. It is very important for people who are looking for some expert opinion. So if you have an expert in the field, so you can ask that person for an interview. If the interview is not one on one, maybe, so you can, what people do these days is they send the questionnaire, right? So I can tell you one example of this because I conducted one interview of a very senior naval officer, and I asked certain questions which I required for my research. Okay, so that was he. Since he is an expert in the field, so his opinion matters a lot. Okay, so that is, interview is for one-on-one interview is not for, any, to your friend or anyone. It is basically to some expert. Next is a focus group. If you have more people, for example, there are 5 6 people, who are working in the similar field as yours. So what you can do is, you can make a group of these you can make a focus group of all these people, and then you can ask your questions, whatever you think should be, is relevant for your research. Next is ethnographic research. It means ethnographic something when you work on a ethnic community. For example, if somebody is working on some tribe, so that becomes ethnographic research. That is also a qualitative research. Case study research, you are working on a case study. Case study as in, can anyone give me example of case study? No
In
one
any
is
field,
working on
in any field.
any field.
So basically, I was doing research on urban planning, and there was this city planned by Maharashtra government, Lavasa करके, and that city failed because they could not plan it properly. लाखों करोड़ का investment लगा दिया उन लोगों ने private sector से public sector से, but that city failed. They did not achieve anything. तो वो एक particular case study है कि इसके through मैं larger problem बता रहा हूँ कि इंडिया में private और public का proper PPP partnership नहीं है urban planning के लिए.
Exactly. Very, very, very good example. I mean, this is a perfect example of a case study, where you analyze why this particular. So you're basically relying, focusing on a particular case, and, you're trying to. So while you're doing this, because you want to get some takeaways from it, why it failed, what can we learn better? Yes, that is what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That, yes, that is when, so basically that is qualitative research method, so here, you are not supposed to ask people, in these all, basically in qualitative research method, you do not need to go for a survey, you do not need to make a sample out of it. I hope now it is clear to everyone, in which case you have to make, a sample, you have to make a questionnaire, you have to go for a survey and all that. I hope it makes some sense now after this.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then is record keeping. Then is process of observations. Record keeping is basically when you have, so a lot of people are involved in library sciences and all that. For them, record keeping is, so I can tell you one example of record keeping. If that is the best example I know. So there was one naval officer I know who basically collects all the data. He keeps a record of what China, he's basically a China researcher, and he has a whole database, his own database he has prepared, out of, like, within a span of like 10 years something. And he has all the record where China has invested, what amount, in which African country, for example. You ask him and he'll tell you. That is a record keeping research. So, for example, China has built like 3 ports in a country, for example. So he can tell you where these ports are situated. That is a record keeping research. Then is the process of observation, where you observe, people, you observe people's action, you observe the changes, something like that. Any observation, right? So basically what I'm trying to say here, what I'm trying to focus here is, in the qualitative method, if you have qualitative, so first of all you have to identify whether your question is qualitative or not, whether your research is qualitative in nature or not. If it is qualitative in nature, then these are the methods you have to follow, and not the earlier ones that we have discussed, that sample, that questionnaire, and all that. I hope it's clear now. Any doubts in this? Ma'am, so the purpose of, yes, it's trend analysis basically. It's totally about, so have you heard about this, that during Donald Trump time there was 5 times investment in for example renewables, right? That is called trend. So that is why records are important, because then only you can do the comparative analysis. That is also a research. Clear?
Ma'am, may I state a irony?
Yes, yes, please.
Donald Trump was against renewable energy. He didn't even believe there's something called climate change. He was a totally business minded person.
Yes, yes, I was just giving example. I mean, I was just trying to say something, it just
Just
came into
no,
my
I
head.
just want to
Yeah,
no, no,
I know he
just
said, he even
the
said publicly
irony,
that climate change is a
ma'am.
hoax.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's why.
yeah, even said that publicly, and it was, I mean, because of him, I think he even dragged out of UNF Triple C Paris Agreement and all that. It's just okay. Um, let's continue. I hope it is clear. Qualitative part. Let's move to the quantitative part now. Now here comes the quantitative part for survey research, correlationary. So uh, census, people basically in business studies, in in behavioral sciences, they are more, they do more of quantitative research. Okay, but it's not field based. I think it's totally depend on your research topic, whether you have to do the qualitative. I can give you one example. People think that in international affairs, only qualitative research is followed, but there is one colleague of mine who is working on diaspora. Okay, so she's working on Punjabi diaspora in Canada and US. So basically, she has to go for the quantitative research. She has to prepare a survey question. She has to collect the data, and after that, she has to analyze that data. Right? So that becomes, it totally depends on your research topic. For example, there are people who are working on maybe in international affairs only. A researcher is working on students who are right now in Australia. Okay, their opinions about Australia and whether, so it totally depends on your research topic. I cannot emphasize more on this, that every research is unique. You have to find out your own ways. a, a guide, a mentor can only just give you directions maybe, but you have to find out your own ways. I hope it's clear. Yes.
As clear as water, ma'am.
Thanks. Okay, now how can you identify whether it is, your research is quantitative or qualitative? First of all, quantitative would be where data can be analyzed numerically and quantified into hard facts. Uh, okay, can you quantify it in hard facts, that how people, for example, there is a question, and you have to tell me whether it's quantitative research or qualitative. So how people think after getting married, maybe how people think after breakups, can you quantify it?
No, ma'am.
You cannot, right? Because it is something of a qualitative nature, it is a feeling. Okay, it basically a quality. It is, you cannot quantify it in hard numbers, hard facts, that okay, these many people felt, you cannot say that 60% of people felt good after breaking up, right? It's not, I mean, it's something very you cannot quantify feelings basically. Okay, so I hope you can now understand by these difference. Basically, you will be able to put your research into the quantitative or qualitative part. So now you can analyze in your own head whether your research, where your research lies. And trust me, it can be a mixture of both as well. It's not important that the research would only be quantitative or a research would only be qualitative. It can also be a mixture of both. That is very important. I hope it is clear.
Yes, man.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Collection methods for quantitative, you can go for online, in person, phone interviews, surveys. That is what we have discussed, the whole part of the data collection part. Data collection, we've also discussed for qualitative. I hope that's clear. Quantitative research is best for drawing, conclusion through larger scale studies, conducting statistical analysis. Qualitative research is for formulating hypotheses, gathering detailed information from smaller groups. Because it is qualitative in nature, and you cannot have, qualitative analysis of a very large population. It is humanly very difficult, to get into smaller, a very detailed information of larger groups. Okay. Next is analysis. For quantitative, we generally go for statistical analysis through charts, tables, and all that. Qualitative is generally manual, okay, because there are smaller groups involved. So it is also easy to do it manually. Question is, did you buy ice cream today? This is, I think, a very good example. So it is a dichotomical type of a question, yes or no. Did you buy or not? It's very easy. So, for example, there are like 100 people whom we are researching on, and 50% said yes, they bought ice cream today, and 50% said no. Okay, but if you get into the aspect of why did you buy ice cream today, that becomes a qualitative part of it. I mean, what forces a person to buy ice cream you know, on a certain day? Data example is 67% of respondents bought ice cream today. And qualitative part can be, I saw ice cream on sale by the checkout and it was an impulse buy. So, have you heard about all these data statistics that, uh, 70% of people do impulse shopping because there was a sale? Yes, generally it is, uh, in,
Yes, ma'am.
magazines like India Today, you get such surveys, right? I hope, it's been a long
Yes,
time
ma'am.
I've read.
Seen
Yes,
it.
in India Today. If you have read, can you give me one example? Because I cannot come across any.
Ma'am, there was this survey of how if the supermarkets play music like soothing, calm music, and the what is it, customers are made to listen to that music, they might buy more. The if they keep more what is it, less priced products just near them, you might remember a last moment purchase and like impulse buy, or like have big banners of uh, so much off, but it's only for like less, and you're tricking people into buying. So there was one, I think.
Yes, the supermarket culture, right? I mean, it's
uh,
very common. Even supermarket works on all these qualitative aspects, how, where to keep a product so that a person would buy it more. Yes, absolutely. So, I hope now you basically understand. The purpose was to make you understand the difference, and by understanding the qualitative part. For example, if you kept one product at a certain place for 1 week, so there was less sale. So they even quantify it, that 1 week we kept this product. For example, they kept one product, ice creams, at the end of the supermarket. So they'll feel that the sales are getting, so they'll be like, the sales have decreased by this much percentage. And when they shift to they shift the ice creams to some other, maybe at the entry or at the exit, so they'll be like, okay, this at this place the percentage of sales have increased by this much. So qualitative and quantitative research can also be like sometimes mixed together. you know Hope it's clear.
Yes, ma'am.
This is the data and techniques for data collection. We have talked in details, but just for a quick glance you can have. Forms and questionnaire, very easy technique. We have talked about questionnaires a lot, how you can make Google Forms, what sort of questions you have. Second is interview. uh, Interview of people, interview of expert, interview of for asking their opinions about on certain topic. Third is observation, when you observe things. Fourth is records and documents. So records and documents is majorly for people who are working for the qualitative part. Focus groups, we have talked about the focus groups also. Oral histories become relevant when you are not able to find the written data. So I can tell you some tribal groups are there who don't. So whenever I have heard this, when people work on tribal groups, so there are certain tribal groups who believe in transferring histories orally from one generation to other. So it becomes important at that point. Combination research. So combination research is when you are deploying two techniques, quantitative as well as qualitative. Eighth is online tracking. Everybody of you know this. Online marketing analytics, I don't think it's relevant for us. Social media monitoring can be important for you people. Some of you, because then you can at least find out the trend analysis. Any doubts in this?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Um, this is a very exhaustive slide. This is basically a book, C.R. Kothari, and it's basically about quantitative research. So you can just have a look at it. You're not supposed to cram it in something. So I have there are methods, there are type methods and techniques. For example, library research, you can analyze. The method can be historical record analysis, document analysis, and technique can be recording of notes, content analysis, watching films, tapes. So here we are talking about in a more nuanced manner as it is written in the books. So for field research also, there are non-participant direct observation, when participant doesn't know that you are observing them, right? So researcher is conducting a study with the participants does not know that they are being researched upon. Participant observation, then is mass observation. Can anyone tell me where non-participant direct observation? Any example of it?
Ma'am, that would be the double blind one, correct?
No, that is single blind, because the researcher knows that who's the participant here.
Then, when they are experimenting on new medication,
Yes, medication, but have you ever thought that you're always under surveillance? Always. Even in the malls, railway stations, everywhere.
CCTV cameras.
CCTV cameras, exactly. Maybe a participant does not know who is looking at it. Even on the railway station, you does not know who is the person at the end of the camera watching you. Yes? Yes, I heard a voice.
मैम वैसे ही लोग इतने पैरानॉइड हैं।
No, I mean, I'm not scaring you, but that's the truth, right? We are always under surveillance. I mean, in today's era, it's very difficult to, even, uh, I mean, it's just difficult. You just cannot ignore it. Everywhere there are cameras, everywhere. You're always under some, even not under the cameras. I mean, with your phone, if you're wherever you take your phone, they know where is your location, what was your last location, call records, everything, messages, that is social media. I mean, I can tell you one example of it. Whenever you see some ad, whenever shopping for something on Mintra or maybe Amazon, those similar ads come on your Instagram, those similar ads come on your Facebook. Have you ever felt it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that is because you are always, people know, or these social media giants know what you are, they know everything about you, what you are searching on internet, right? So you are a part, you are a non-participant, direct observation. People are researching on us continuously and we do not know. Okay. um, Next is participant observation. I think it just got very dark.
मैम इतना भी सच नहीं
um,
बोलना होता।
because there is a web series. I think there was this web movie on Netflix. I forgot the name. I watched it long back. I really forgot the name of it. It was really intriguing.
मैम टेल मी द कॉन्टेक्स्ट एंड आई टेल यू द नेम।
It's on Netflix, I'm sure, and it was about Facebook, Cambridge Analytica, and all. I
डजंट
just
रिंग अ
forgot.
बेल मैम।
Yeah, it's in my head, but I just don't remember the name. I've watched it like twice because it was so intriguing for me.
The Great
The
Hack,
Great
ma'am.
Hack. Yes, yes, The Great Hack. Yes, I mean that was the name. If you'll watch it, you'll realize that you are always a part of the study. The Great Hack. If some of you haven't watched it, you can. It's a very nice, and you're all lawyers, so you can get into the legal aspects also of it. Participant observation is, I hope you know where the participant knows.
श्योर मैम।
So you're observing the participant. Mass observation is when you're talking about mass behavior, you know, how people behave in public places using independent observers in public places. Mail questionnaires, when you mail the questionnaire, opinionaire means when you try to find out the opinions of people. Personal interview, I think it's clear. Focused interview is, I think it's very clear by the name only. Group interviews, you have on Rajya Sabha and all, it's very common. You can see examples of all these. There are focus interviews, personal interviews, group interviews, right? So there are all the examples are there. Telephone survey, I think these books are very outdated actually. So just leave telephone survey. Case study and life history we have talked about. There is laboratory research, small group, study of random behavior, play and role analysis. Just leave this, just have a look at it, and you can, include it in your techniques, methods, if your research topic is like that. Let's just wait for 5 seconds. You can just have a look at it and then we'll close it. Any
मैम
doubt?
are we about
Yeah.
to wrap up or it's gonna take a bit longer?
No, no, wrap up. This is the last slide.
Oh, great.
I don't think anything is left after the great hack. Okay. Any doubts? Anyone?
मैम डाउट्स वो सब्जेक्टिव हो जाते हैं व्हेन यू डू योर ओन रिसर्च ना, देन यू आर लाइक यार ये कैसे होगा यहाँ पर, बट यू कैन नॉट जनरलाइज देम कि लाइक दैट, सो
Exactly.
That's the issue.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've emphasized a lot. Everyone has their unique research topic. Everyone needs to make out their own unique methodology for their. These are just some common things that I could share with you, because these are some common aspects of research. That is what I thought. At least these were I thought these are some common pointers that we can talk about. That is why I put it in the presentation. Obviously, researching, even PhD scholars, you might have heard them that, supervisors, even the supervisor doesn't know about what you want to do sometimes, because, you're trying to find out something, the supervisor also doesn't know you know, what you're researching on. So it's something new. Even the people, even the, professionals, they might also don't know about it. So it's okay. It's a lonely journey. Yes, please.
Ma'am, I just wanted to ask something.
Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am, just like you mentioned that there was one survey which, one of your friend had sent that was on stock market or something. So when people make surveys and questionnaire, and others are not aware on that topic, so how can that be productive for them? Like, in what way
It is
does that
not.
help?
It is not. It is not productive at all. Trust me. Basically, after all, it's a system. Basically, her supervisor asked her that she has to get these much responses, and it is very difficult to, make people fill the questionnaire. It is very difficult. Trust me. People whose research is based on data collection, they'll tell you it is very research to gather data. Right? It's not an easy thing. It is very difficult to convince people to even look at your questionnaire. So what people do is they ask their family, they ask their friends to fill the questionnaire, and that is why the data collection becomes, you know redundant, I feel, because then it just doesn't matter. I mean,
Exactly. Because instead of that, we can just go on internet and search on that particular topic and we'll get all the information. So it's just like that.
no, I mean, see, maybe in your topic it is like that, but certain people are working on some topics where it is important to collect first hand data. I mean,
Okay, okay, ma'am.
yes. I can give you one example. There is another colleague of mine who's working on, when Brahmaputra enters India from China, from Tibet. So there are because of the water level, because of the deviating water level, and China is, it is the upstream, and India is on the downstream side of the river. So what happens is there are some villages, small villages, small tribal groups, which are affected by the water level change in the water levels. So he's working on this aspect. Okay. So in this issue, in this case, he's working on the socio-economic aspects of the change in level of water of the Brahmaputra river. So he has to undertake, he has to go to those villages and he has to take interviews of the people. He has to know about their first-hand experiences. Otherwise, you know, how can he gather the data? I mean, so
Yes.
sometimes it becomes relevant.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Any other doubts?
So, ma'am, if you have not found plethora of literature for your particular paper, and there's limited literature, but you think that that would suffice, and but at the same time you have the doubt that, okay, I might have to do more digging and find out more things, because you feel, okay, this is not like extensive or wouldn't give a clear picture. So in that scenario,
So in that case, what you can do is, so in that case, maybe you're not satisfied with the literature that you have read, Or maybe you're not getting the point that you're searching on. I mean, it's very subjective. I don't know. Can you be more specific?
No, ma'am, when you write a good paper, you cite several sources, and that gives your paper credibility and authenticity. But when you have
Yes.
limited sources, you can cite only those, and then a big chunk of what you are writing is without any backing. Nah,
Yes, that affects the credibility. I mean,
that's
I
the
can
issue,
tell you
ma'am.
for sure. Uh, so in that case, that is where the first-hand data comes into the picture, because you do not have probably the data, or if you cannot collect first-hand data, maybe in the second-hand data there is a gap. You know, so maybe that is the gap. You feel that certain topic is important, and not much research has been done yet. Maybe that is the case. That is also a research gap.
Yeah, ma'am, that is the thing only.
So what you're trying to say is, on your topic there is less literature available, right?
Not as much as I'd hoped.
See, frankly, I can tell you one thing: if there is a lot of literature, you will end up confusing yourself also. So sometimes less literature is also a blessing. I mean, it's a blessing in disguise, trust me. So it's
Okay,
not a
ma'am.
very, yes, it's not a very bad thing also. And sometimes it's even keep you more focused, you know. So it's okay.
All right, ma'am.
Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I hope you guys enjoyed the sessions.
Yes, ma'am, definitely.
Okay. In case you guys have any doubts, you can also reach me on my email ID. Also, all the presentations are already with Pranav, so you can ask him for the presentations and share it. It's all, I mean, it's no copyright thing. It's better in sharing if it helps people. Anything you want to say? Otherwise, we can close the session. Okay. So can we close the session?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so
Okay.
much for today's session.
Thank you.
It was a great one.
Thank you so much. I really apologize for yesterday. I couldn't complete it.
And it's okay,
It's
ma'am.
really hot here. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye.